Good. Call to order meeting of Stokes County Board of Commissioners, August 25th. I'll have the prayer if we stand, please. Precious Heavenly Father, thank you for the freedom we have to be here. Thank you for the men and women in service that help protect our freedom. Watch over, guide us, and give us wisdom and leadership in making decisions in this meeting. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll go to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Public comments? Olivia, have any?
Yes. Before we do public comments, I'm going to read the rules of procedure. Each speaker shall be allowed 4 minutes for public comments with the option to yield time to another speaker or add an additional minute, depending on the number of speakers who have signed up, while abiding by the 30-minute total time limit. All speakers shall maintain good decorum and show respect and good manners. Vulgar language, profanity, inappropriate gestures, insults, personal attacks, accusations, and inflammatory language is prohibited. The chairman of the board shall enforce these rules, and anyone not complying with these rules shall not be allowed to continue. At their discretion, members of the board may address items from the public comment portion of the meeting during the commissioner comment period. Up first, we have Michael Goodman.
Hello, thank you. My name is Michael Goodman. I live on Willard Road in High Point. I also have owned the land on the corner of Jewel and Moorfield and Danbury since April of 2021. I would only add that I first came to Stokes County when I worked for Halstead, later Kobe from 1989 and 1998. I'm a retired state teacher. I come here to ask you to consider a change to the noise ordinance, specifically Section 1, Paragraph B4, which limits loud noise only between midnight and 7 a.m. On August 14th, midday, I was up on my land. My neighbor at 2367 Moorfield was playing music loud enough that I could hear it from behind a stand of trees 2/10 of a mile above. This is the first time I've heard such noise of this nature since purchasing the land, and it appeared to be louder than otherwise appropriate for a quiet rural area. I first spoke with one of my neighbors across Moorfield who told me he'd also heard the noise. I then spoke with Deputy Cooper and then Sergeant Lawson of the Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Lawson informed me of the ordinance's time restrictions. Sergeant Lawson said 2367 had been visited some number of times and appeared to be purposely operating to within the specific ordinance's time limits. Sergeant Lawson said any meaningful enforcement of the ordinance under these circumstances would require replacing the phrase "from midnight to 7 a.m. with the phrase "at any time." Please verify with Sergeant Lawson and Deputy Cooper that this was the understanding of our conversation. Commissioner Keith Wood and I then spoke, at which time he also explained the time limitations of the conversation. All of this was on the 14th. I returned on August 15th midday and once again heard the noise. In subsequent texts with Commissioner Wood, I learned that he'd driven past 2367 Moorfield and had heard the noise. Commissioner Wood said he'd contacted Sheriff Lemons, who drove by 2367 early on August 15th. Commissioner Wood can verify the timetable of events, but it would seem Sheriff Lemons asked the resident at 2367 to lower the music, but was informed she was not in violation of the ordinance due to the time of day. I've since learned from two neighbors north of me that any noise disturbance started after some negative interactions between 2367 and the two neighbors to the north. One logical conclusion based on speaking with both the neighbors and sheriff's deputies is that 2067 could be using the noise as some form of harassment, which is inconsistent with the ordinance, and which, if a warning were issued, could result in a $100 fine for every 24-hour period. Obviously, that's not a desirable outcome. In speaking with one neighbor, I found that the noise from 2367 had initially subsided, but has since come back intermittently. While matters of this nature should be resolved in a courteous fashion, I would ask the commissioners to alter the 1994 ordinance to reflect Sergeant Lawson's suggestion of "at any time." I would also ask the commissioners to review Section 1, Paragraph B6 on harassment, so the Sheriff's Department has a clear understanding of the tools at their disposal for fair ordinance enforcement throughout Stokes County. I would only point out that Paragraph B6 says the making of any law that identifies noise out of the ordinance's permission is the making of any loud noise, the sole purpose of which is to harass or annoy any other person. If there are no questions, I just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Kathleen Edwards.
Good afternoon, Amber and Olivia, commissioners, and Mr. Sanborn. I'm here to strongly oppose the appointment of a hunter who uses dogs to sit on the Animal Control Advisory Board. We already have an animal control director and 2 animal control officers who hunt with dogs. Dwan Glidewell, before being hired as an officer, was cited by animal control for having multiple underweight coonhounds on logging chains with plastic barrels. Not one of his hunting dogs had a rabies vaccination. Brian Turney, before being hired as an AC officer, had a social media profile picture showing 3 dead raccoons beneath his grinning face. These people have no animal cruelty training and no animal welfare training. They are certified only to administer rabies shots and kill animals. These are people who deliberately harass wildlife as a recreational pastime. Reducing the Animal Control Advisory Board from 9 people to 5 was a very poor decision. Federal trial court judge and judicial philosopher Learned Hand once said, quote, "Right conclusions are more likely to be gathered out of a multitude of tongues," meaning voices. A board of 5 is much less likely to reach right conclusions than a board of 9. We no longer have a licensed veterinarian on the board. We no longer have a representative from law enforcement on the board. The director himself is no longer willing to attend meetings because he doesn't want to address public backlash for his performance. Meetings have been reduced from 4 per year to 2 per year. I recently made a public records request asking how many cruelty cases have been prosecuted in Stokes County since December 2023, when Reeves was hired. The answer is 0. I asked how many dog breeders are registered in this county. The answer is 1. Based on historical data, it is highly unlikely that there is no cruelty in Stokes County. It is much more likely that cruelty is being ignored. It is also unlikely that there's only 1 dog breeder in Stokes County. This information should be of great concern to everyone. When Sandra Robinson resigned from the Animal Control Advisory Board, Reeves replaced the bylaws that had been in force for more than 17 years by adopting Surrey County's bylaws. Now that Tammy Martin, our health department director, has resigned from the new board, Reeves wants to rewrite the bylaws for the 2nd time in under 6 months. What we want on our Animal Control Advisory Board is expertise. Our Animal Control Department is already heavily laden with hunter mentality. What we need on the Animal Control Advisory Board are more voices speaking for the welfare of animals, not fewer. We shouldn't be rewriting the bylaws every time a board member resigns. Coon hunting is not the future of Stokes County. Coon hunters are already overrepresented in our Animal Control Department staff. People who hunt with dogs make up fewer than 1% of Stokes County residents. It is shameful that this county has allowed over the past 2 years the steady erosion of morality and animal welfare standards in our AC department. It smacks of corruption. Thank you.
You.
That's all of our public comments.
Okay, we go to the comments of commissioners and manager. Sonia?
I don't really have much to say today, but thank you all for being here and your participation and your comments, and we can just get right on with the meeting.
Thank you.
Great to see everybody today. Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out to the government meeting, and God bless with another beautiful day, another day of life.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to also welcome everybody. Thank you for your participation. We always really appreciate that. I'd like to recognize Brandon Hooker for the genealogy program that he put on this past weekend over at the Arts Place. First time I've been involved in that, and it's really interesting stuff. And he and his participants in that program did an outstanding job. I think it'll be back again next year, so I'd highly recommend folks attend to that if that's something you're interested in. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Brad?
Welcome everybody. Good to see everybody. We appreciate the two public comment speakers. We always want to hear from people in the community. Looking ahead to next week, let's don't forget it's Labor Day weekend. So please remember that while a lot of us will be enjoying the holiday, don't forget our troops that are overseas. Our troops, they're even with the National Guard, they're in D.C. Don't forget them. And of course, our public safety, our sheriff's office, highway patrol, and our fire departments, and of course, our medical emergency services. They'll still be working 24/7. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things I'd like to comment on. The first is that we are continuing our collective effort to work on the new fire department contract mechanism, and I'm pleased to report that on Friday I got the draft back from the Fire Commission 1 week ahead of schedule. I have not really had a good chance to review that document yet, but we're in position now where we'll be able to get that on your next agenda for you to consider updating this a more current version of the draft that we can send out to the fire departments for review after you do approve that. The second thing I'd like to comment on is that I spent the tail end of last week in Greenville at the Association of County Commissioners conference. It's an annual event. First time I've been able to attend one of those. It was very, very well run, very well attended, except maybe not quite so much for the counties on the western side of the state for obvious reasons. That's quite a long drive to get over there. They had a lot of great breakout sessions and classes that I was able to participate in, and was able to connect with a lot of people, connect with people and reconnect with a lot of people that I knew previously. So it was a good event. Thank you.
Amber?
I don't have any comments besides welcome.
Olivia, I know you don't have any. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Jeff, for taking one for us by going to Greenville and being a representative voting rep. I don't even know what y'all were voting on. It must have not been worthwhile.
To be honest, I was ill at the end of the last week.
Oh, okay.
So I came home before the business session on Saturday afternoon, but it was appointment of voting on the new board structure.
Yeah, a big deal. And then Rick stole my thunder on I was also attending the event that Mr. Hooker put on Saturday. It was probably, what do you think, 35 people there? It was well attended, and it was from outside the county too. And this was the third one, and he does plan more. And also for your people that's interested in that type stuff, they're doing something similar the 27th of September at the Madison Library in Rockingham. So if you're into your family tree, you can get some good information or good sources how to. They're there. The 27th, they're going to have a guy from Wilkesboro. If you got an old deed in your family history, he can take it and show you where it is this day and time on the map, which I'm very interested in. Also, 60 Plus food giveaway. I hadn't mentioned them lately. Ben reached out to me last week. They had I think they were 30 pounds short of 3 tons of food they give away. They helped 120 families. And then he informed me this is their 3rd year. I can't believe that, because and it averaged about that amount, and that just shows you how needy people in this county and surrounding counties are. And I'm sure they could take help, and they kind of wing this by themselves. So, but that's just one of many things that goes on helping the needy in this county. And that's all I got. I'll go to the conflict of interest. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda for today, or one that may be perceived as a conflict of interest? Consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now we're to information agenda. Man, you know you're up, so come on up.
Good afternoon.
Noon.
Well, what a great day the Lord has made today. I tell you what, this is, how often we get this in August? Come over walking across the parking lot just now, and I guess in the upper 70s, and it was just wow. That's all you could say, right? So I'll make this pretty quick here, but a few slides here just to try to get through. She's handed me this driver unit. I just hit the button and keep going. There it is. All right. All right. So just a couple of things here. I think one of the biggest things that you'll see throughout some of this presentation is some pictures of our staff. Everything about the sheriff's office and the jail has got to really revolve around the job that those folks do. And it's just amazing what we're able to accomplish sometimes in a rural county, and what they do and their dedication to helping out and things like that. So just a kind of a breakdown of different things up there. You'll see them working different events, firearms training and stuff like that. And so that's just kind of what that slide there is reflecting. So here, what point? Should. You've got the oh, well, we went the wrong way. Oh, there we go. All right, so just a couple of things here you'll see on here. Of course, the Sheriff's Office has had the opportunity to attend several public service events throughout this year. This presentation day is really covering for you guys from January 1 to June 30th. So the first 6 months of the year is kind of the timeline we're talking about here. So several things between the Walnut Cove festivals we've had the opportunities to attend, go to some daycares, show the kids a car, let them crawl through it and play in their vehicles and things like that. Francis Cove Royalton's had an opportunity to present to those folks there. Captain Bottoms did. Several DARE graduations would have been the first of the year. A Little Folks Festival at Mount Olive. Then we also did an Operation Medicine Drop in Walnut Cove. Had several folks come by and drop medications there. And then, of course, we graduated our Citizens Academy in May of this year. And so we had 9 more people participate in that. And so we think that was real successful as well. Get a lot of positive feedback for that. And again, we'll plan on another one of those in the spring of 2026 that comes around. So obviously, you guys are going to be just like we are. When the fall comes around, you get your chicken stew bowl out and you get ready to eat everywhere you go, right? And so we know that's coming up, the chicken stew and festivals and things. So we're going to be busy coming up here as well. Stokes Stomp, we're looking forward to that being here in Danbury. And then, of course, the Stokes County Fair. So the Sheriff's Office will be represented in all those locations there as well, helping out each one of those organizations there. Be having our equipment up to date. I just want to bring that up. So we're very blessed and very fortunate where the county's kind of helped us get in the last few years. And it kind of goes with that next bullet point there of a strong vehicle fleet. We're going to talk about the software here in just a moment and kind of how these numbers came to be. So that vehicle fleet is really strong. Every car on patrol now, every full-time officer has an in-car computer. They have an Axon in-car camera system that points to the front and into the rear passenger area of the vehicle. So when they're transporting somebody in custody, that's recorded as well. And they also have internet in the vehicles 24/7, and they have a laptop in those cars that's connected with communications so that they have that access there. If they have to do something kind of, silent, when they do their security checks and stuff, it doesn't have to create so much radio traffic. They're able to do that through the software, the computers in their cars and things like that. And the sheriff had a chance to go to several of the legislative meetings here, so he's really up to date in keeping up with that. Now, this is an accomplishment for him, but again, is elected as the secretary of the Sheriff's Association again. So Stokes County is well represented there in the Sheriff's Association as well. I'll wake it up again. Oh, there it goes. One big event we want to talk about, just to kind of bring a highlight to, is it was an amazing turnout to this event here. And so we had this multi-large training scale event at one of the local schools here. And I think it's just speaks a lot for the county to see who all was represented at that event. And we even had the Park Service come into the school system. They're a valuable law enforcement resource in the county that sometimes gets forgotten about, that the park rangers are law enforcement and they're sworn. We also had North Carolina Wildlife that participated. They had 4 wildlife officers that come and participate as well. Highway Patrol, and you can see the different law enforcement agencies, King and Stokes. And you can see how many from the local here, Stokes EMS, Emergency Management, the Fire Marshal's Office. The medical director, Dr. Nelson, was huge in making sure that everything was being handled appropriately from the medical side there, so he stayed there. Stokes County 911 Communications Center, so our IT department was able to set up a communication center on site at the local school. So they had their dispatch software and they had it all there, just like they were doing it at their console. So they were able to continue to participate there while being on site. And you can see how many volunteer fire departments sent personnel there to also participate. This was a 3-day event. And so in order to get all the people to be able to participate, this thing does not like me. Trying to get you the next slide. There it goes. So for everybody to be able to participate, we did it in 3 days. So we did the same scenario all 3 days, but allowed all the EMS shifts. So every full-time EMS personnel, all full-time sheriff's office personnel, your school resource officers, everybody had the chance to participate. Sometimes that's the challenge when you do one big event on one day. Everybody can't be there. So we want to make sure that everybody had the chance to participate. You can see adult probation, the fire marshal's office. One really big thing we were excited about is you can see in the top picture there in the middle, every day we had school administrators there, as well as Dr. Jones and Dr. Rice both participated or were there at the training as well. So I think that's a huge piece right there, that the school needs to see what we're doing and what was happening and things like that. So they also attended each day as well. And so we were really excited about that event. We had.
Is this the first time you had something like this?
So it's the first time we've had this many participants. We have been doing active shooter, big multi-group drills, but we had not done it over multiple days. So you were kind of confined to those that were available on that particular day. And usually, because it was the one day, it was confined to the local principal of the school that was participating, where this time they were able to bring all the administrators in and stage them in throughout the 3 days and stuff like that. So we had over 200 people participating. We also had 25 people participate as victims to help have live people there, so that the EMS had somebody physically they had to pick up and move and figure out how that procedure works and stuff like that. So we were really excited how that went. And the great thing is other than just the time to pay somebody, the whole event, I think it cost us $500. So other than just paying for somebody to be there, kind of thing. And so anyway, big event, really excited about how that went and how many people were able to participate. So here's the big thing that I want to kind of brag about. We appreciate you guys working hard to get us this new software. For those, it may not be quite, or I guess first remembering what it used to be. Spillman, we'd had it since 1999. So we'd had that software a long time, but it didn't seem to grow with us and enhance with us, I guess you would say, with modern stuff. So we moved to Southern Software, and it upgraded for us our records management system and our jail management system. And you can see it was launched for us. It went live in August of 2024 is when we jumped off with that. Now, of course, it also did your CAD system, but that's not something that I would talk about per se. That'd be a Nicole thing. But so big positive changes that came with the software. Of course, it helped streamline some data recording processes there. For those that can remember kind of how the flow chart used to work, I mean, it's the best we could do at the time, but trying to email stuff in and all that, this makes a big difference in being able to do it real time. So the deputies are doing the reports out in the field in the software, and they're also doing paper service in the field in the software. So we can see it real time in the office. If they go out and somebody calls and says, hey, so-and-so tried to serve my paper, and we can look in the system and say, yeah, it looks like they went out there 3 hours ago but didn't locate anybody. So we see that real time instead of having to wait for a piece of paper to come back in at the time that we're not, I guess the paper's been returned or something like that. It did connect us with the mobile dispatch, and it gives them access to our records management in the car, so they can search reports and they can search mug shots and pictures and historical type information, as well as call information. How many times have we been to this house? What's going on there? Things like that. So they have access to that for the patrol division in their car there. Wireless booking option. This is a pretty neat thing for the jail. So we were able to purchase a $150 tablet, I think is what we purchased, an Android tablet. And so the software works through an app that's secure through our JMS system there. So it has Connect that IT set us up a wireless point there at the jail, and it connects with that. And they can actually take tattoo pictures and facial pictures and do some booking stuff on the tablet. So when it gets, instead of trying to use a webcam or a camera to try to zoom in on something, they can just take a tablet and walk over to you and take a picture. They can also use it to document other things and stuff like that. So that's a pretty big piece for the jail there to be able to move up and use that. Online citizen access to inmate bookings. That was a big piece that we were excited to make available. A lot of folks would call and say, what's so-and-so's bond? Who's in the jail? Is he still there? Has he been released? Victims would call us, are they still up there? And so that's real time there. And so now citizens can go to the Sheriff's Office website, click on the jail link, and they can look up people that are online, or they can use our app, and that's the next piece there, the Sheriff's app, which is supported by Southern Software. So that wasn't a separate piece that was built into the contract. And so there was no extra expense in that. It's already built in. And so that's pretty neat there, and I'll show you some screenshots of that here in just a moment. The website information interface with software is called Citizens Connect, and you'll see where that's at here in just a moment. And then online access to wanted persons, missing persons, and alerts. And so through that app there, you can also put your cell phone number, and if there's an alert that we need to send out, it would text you if you'd opt to sign up for that. That's obviously an option that you have, but that's through the Sheriff's app as well that came through this. It's also, this was an adventure. I had to set up an app store and a Google Play store in order to make this app available, and that was definitely a new one for me. And so it took us a while, but you can download it for the Apple phone or the Android phone. Either one is available on both platforms. So here's kind of the initial home shot of your app. You can see what's available there. So even the word confinement's there. You can go see all the inmates on your cell phone. So it's very easy, quick access there. The news, any kind of press release we put out. Alerts, that's what I was talking about. If you go to the alerts tab, you can sign up for a text alert if there's anything that we need to send out, whether it's a tornado warning to something serious that's happening in your neighborhood or whatever. It won't geo-base, so it's all or none, whoever signed up for it. So you just have to use the information that you get in your discretion. Submit a tip. People can submit a tip through their app now, and so we can get that information as well. And then the others are pretty self-explanatory there. Contacts, employment, and then of course any events we think warranting putting the information out there. Like on there right now, the Stokes stomp is on there, and I put a picture that Tori created of the traffic pattern, just trying to get that information out that is a change of location, and there's going to be a main street running right down the middle of the event. And so we put that on there. We thought that's important that the citizens could see that map and kind of what that looks like. And then of course the Stokes County Fair coming up as well. So those two events are on there. That's going to change Main Street and King for a little while. This was an example of an alert there that we had sent out at one time, so it kind of gives you an idea of what it would look like. And then, of course, here's if you're just looking at our news screen there, and then the last one here is like the contact screen. So as you can play with that, doesn't cost anything to download, obviously, and I myself and the Captain Bottoms are able to keep that up pretty current and real time of what's happening and what's going on. But the good thing is like the confinements and things like that automatically interfaces with the software. So that's nothing that we have to do. The second the jail makes an update to it, it automatically updates on the app and things like that. So that came with the new software. So we're excited about that app there and getting that information piece out. Thinking again. The next screen, when it comes up, is going to be submit a tip. There it goes. And so I thought this was pretty good information here. This is an online tip piece here that's connected to the app, or you can go to the website and do it either way. As you can see, we've had 36 submissions since June the 4th. Getting that kind of up and going. And so the submissions have come in, have been anything from there's a wanted person to this location to drugs are being sold here to different things. And so that information actually forwards to the correct people. So you can see criminal violations, drug violations, traffic, and wanted persons, depending on what option that you choose. The system is already designed to route it to the correct folks. So if it's a drug violation, it's going to go to the detectives that do the drug investigation. So it happens in real time. So it doesn't have to be filtered and somebody figure out how to get it to them and things like that. So it's been a pretty big piece there. We're excited that the folks are starting to see that out there and use that. We've gotten probably 7 or 8 tips here in the last 7 days. So looking at Citizens Connect, it looks like it maybe, or seems like it's a little hidden in there. But if you'll notice when you go to the Sheriff's Office website and the community programs at the drop down, you'll see where Citizens Connect is. And what Citizens Connect is basically the app web-based. So if you're sitting at your computer, you can go to the Sheriff's Office website, pull up Citizens Connect. There where it says online services and inmate confinements, the same thing that you saw on the app is available on the Sheriff's website. So you can go to both locations and see that information there, depending on what source that you're using. All right, so kind of keeping along with the lines of the software, trying to learn how to pull numbers out of it accurately. That's the challenge, next challenge, right? Trying to understand what report and interpret how they're pulling the data and things like that. And so here, I'm going to give you a few things here, a number of calls for service that we had. NIBRS was one thing that I was requested to try to pull some of that. And so I just got a letter recently from Raleigh that said, just to let us know that you had to have 8 months worth of data for it to show up. So the 2024 data would not show up because August 2024 is when we launched. And so this is going to be our first full year. So when they do upload it here, I think in the next month or so, they implied the 2024 information would not show just simply because of those few months that we reported. September was actually our first month that we reported since we started August the 20th. We'll talk about jail bookings, misdemeanor confinement program, that's the SMCP, court services, and then we'll talk about some of the things that's happening in the office. So here's one of the things that the manager had asked about here. A couple of things. Actually, this is the calls for service. Next will be the NIBRS stuff. It's just kind of some interesting numbers here. Keep in mind when you're looking at this graph here, this is how dispatch codes it. So just because it's coded this doesn't mean that's the same thing it was when we arrived on the scene. They might get it as a break-in and entering that's taken place, and you get there and they find out, well, I forgot to shut the door and the wind blew the door open. And so it can change it. But the way they were told on the 911 system, they coded it initially as a break-in and enter until the deputy got there. So these are the raw numbers here that would have come straight from the communications center. And you can see there the total calls for service being 9,486 calls for service. And that's going from January 1 to June the 30th there through the communications center. That's where that numbers came from. All right, so this is dealing with the NIBRS stuff here. I will say that me trying to research how these numbers are pulled, I was trying to look at the number that it gives you and trying to research the call to make sure the information is accurate and correct. For the most part, the deputies are getting the hang of it. Where we had not had to deal with NIBRS in Spillman, trying to get them sometimes to go back and show that an arrest occurred when they issued a warrant, and then another jurisdiction serves the warrant, like Mecklenburg County may pick the person up. So them trying to go back and remember to put that information in that Mecklenburg County served their warrant was something that they did not have to do before. So overall, the information is pretty accurate, but I did see some discrepancies in there that obviously we're going to continue to hone in and try to clean that up. But overall, Stokes County is very blessed. We are very, very fortunate here where we live at. And so you can kind of see that. You should have that in the handout that I gave you, because I realized trying to look up here and see that number is a little tough. And so hopefully you got that there in front of you there. All other offenses, if you're not familiar with NIBRS, the way that system works is it's kind of what you would call the lower level crimes kind of gets grouped together. And so they don't have a specific category for it. So that's called the 90 category. And all those kind of got lumped together there by NIBRS. So that's 763 of those type of calls that an officer would have gone out that may not have rose to another category that you actually see up there. So that's what that number represents there. The 90 category does not actually get submitted to Raleigh. They don't keep up with that. Just some arrest totals. A lot of times we kind of get asked about demographics and things like that, how it's affecting the population and stuff. But overall, you can see from January 1 to 6/30, 419 arrests have taken place here in the county, and you can kind of see how that's broken down there between some of the demographics there and stuff, and for different offenses and stuff like that. And so you've got that there in front of you as well. To kind of mull that over. I realize that's kind of a lot of numbers and a graph there to kind of try to mull in right at the moment, but that's kind of the gist of that, which you can see is kind of taking place here. That's using the NIBRS code. So keep in mind, some of the wording seems kind of weird, but that's not created by Stokes County Sheriff's Office. NIBRS is a national system, so they create the categories. We just have to squeeze something into the category kind of thing. Is how it works from North Carolina. All right, Stokes County Jail. I thought this was an interesting picture just to show you. On the left, you can see there 2005. You can see your current sergeant and captain there of the jail was here in 2005, and they're your current, ones now. Of course, Tina there was a corporal at the time, and the captain, she was slick sleeve at the time, and now she's the captain and the sergeant of the facility there. But you see here we booked in 643 people in the facility and released 611. There was a kind of some confusion at one time. I saw I guess a Facebook post that somebody was trying to figure out how you book in more people than you arrest, and so understanding that we move a lot of inmates in for court and they come out for court, and King PD brings people, so we don't necessarily arrest them, and Hanging Rock may bring people, and Highway Patrol brings people and things like that. So the bookings into the jail are not always generated by the sheriff's office, but we are obviously responsible to the facility there. So that's kind of how that number varies. Misdemeanor confinement program, we've housed 78 different misdemeanor confinement inmates from January 1 to 6/30, and because of those 78, you can see it generated a revenue of $206,312.85. The goal is at some point, if we could ever get fully staffed, we can actually do better than that because we can do some roadside cleanup. And we would actually, instead of being paid $40 a day for renting a bed, it would be $65 per inmate that's in the misdemeanor confinement program in the facility. And that's not everybody has to go out and work the roadside. It's just a small percentage, but then you get paid $65 for every inmate that's in the facility versus 40. But the challenge is the staffing to man that on the side of the road. That's always the tough part. So we know that's on the radar. That's our goal, to work in that direction, to try to bring that up and get that $65. So hopefully sometime we'll be able to work on that, hopefully, and get some staffing and get that taken care of, and be able to do some roadside cleanup. People would like to see some folks out here on the side of the road and help out in the county as well. Longest serving misdemeanor confinement, he's still currently there, so that number was as of today, 1,019 days serving in the county jail. And our longest serving inmate that is pretrial waiting court is 1,430 days, still waiting to go to court. Sometimes we forget that the court services is something else the sheriff is responsible for. So to kind of give you these numbers here, they're from January 1 again to 6/30, there's been 129 different district courts. So between district criminal to district civil to those types of things, 129 of those, 18 different days of superior court. Other courts include your juvenile court, DSS courts, and things like that. So they have that sort of stuff. Number of people scanned there at the front door of your courthouse. 24,608 folks have been scanned coming into the Stokes County Government Center. The number of inmates transported, so we're talking about those that we would either take to prison, get the court order, as you'll see that last one says a writ, to get an order to go pick up somebody from another jail and bring them back to our jail for pending court. And so that number of inmates transported, 229. Miles driven for that timeline, 19,404 miles, and we have served 94 writs. So the district attorney's office has issued 94 writs to go pick up inmates and bring them back to court because they have a pending action in Stokes County still. We just took one back last week to, was it Tyrell, I believe it was, maybe over to Coast. You're talking just at 5 hours one way to go take them back to prison. And so that's a long trip. So just in turnaround time, you got about 11 hours of manpower to go take them back, and then of course drive back to Stokes County and things like that. So it makes for a long day for those transports. Looking at your local sheriff's office here, what's happening here? Security checks. So that's checking businesses, churches, or residences that may be, for those folks that may be on vacation and have asked for us to kind of keep a check on their house. So from January 1 to June 30th. 18,784 of those are logged in. Concealed handgun permits, we get that quite often of how many we're processing there. So you can see 567 of those, 133 were new, 422 were news, and 12 duplicates. Usually means they lost it or they moved or something changed and they had to get another permit issued. Civil papers, 1,369 civil papers were issued to the sheriff's office in that time frame. And you can see how many we recorded served in the system with an 87% service rate. So I was really pleased with that number there. Criminal papers, it says not warrant for arrest. And the reason why is the warrant for arrest system is independently run by the state of North Carolina. And so that's not in our RMS system. It's called e-warrants now. It used to be NCOR, and now it's e-warrants. So that's tracked by the state, not necessarily our RMS system. The only thing we would track is a service, but not necessarily papers issued and things like that. So looking at other criminal papers, it could be show cause orders, subpoenas, and things like that. 413 of those been issued out, and 359 served, again with an 87%. Fingerprints, the sheriff's office does a lot of fingerprints for board of nursing, to school, to insurance salesmen and things like that. And other jurisdictions, we inherit their folks because our timeline's a little faster to get that done. So anybody can come here. So we do a lot of Forsyth County residents as well. 189 of those have been done, and then we monitor 118 sex offenders is what we monitor here in this county. If you go back to the calls for service, you saw 110 checks on that. We usually go check on several of those a week and do a spot check, go by their house, make sure they're still where they say they're supposed to be and things like that. So we still have a couple of folks who go by and surprise them and make sure. And this is just the last slide right here. And it's just, I always brag on our county. And so one of the things when we're trying to do recruiting and we talk to folks, they ask you about Stokes County. And this is some of the things that I tell them. Why would you want to work for Stokes County? Because it's the greatest county in North Carolina. It's the most beautiful county, and this is your office. This is what you see outside your office when you're riding around, is this and the people. To stop into a store and the people go, hey, we're glad you're here. Appreciate you, what job you're doing and things like that. Doesn't happen in a lot of counties. And so again, I just to brag on Stokes County as a whole. But that's basically my presentation. I know I won't take up too much of your time here, and I'll answer any questions if you think you have any here.
Sonia?
I don't really have any questions because it was such a thorough report, very good report. I like seeing all the pictures of all the employees and things like that. I like that being included. It's a good, thorough report and a lot of good information. So I don't really have any questions.
Great job, buddy. Everything looks good on that. So them inmates have been there longer than some of the jailers, ain't they?
It's kind of a standing joke that we can promote them to an inmate corporal.
Great job.
Thank you, sir.
Rick?
Thanks, sir. Yes, a good report, Eric. I'm glad you got rid of Spillman finally. That's good. I was just curious on your charts, and I think it matches the round one versus the square one here, but it says stolen property offense is 1 arrest. Is that all for that whole period of time?
I would have to go look to see what gets categorized in that. So larceny is not in that. So
Okay.
when you take a report for somebody had a weed eater stolen or a chainsaw, would not fall into that category because of the misdemeanor category. It's got Class A offenses, Class B. NIBRS gets really confusing on how to classify things and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you'd have to look let's see if there's a category of, I have to go look at the report, like all other larcenies.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of that misdemeanor stuff falls in there. You stole the candy bar, the drink, or shoplifting and that kind of thing, stuff like that. But the thefts, I would have to see exactly what NIBRS categorizes, but I'm thinking that's going to be maybe some higher stuff. You see vehicles is separate, so that's pulled out, so that doesn't apply and things. So I'd actually, in order to try to get a true definitive answer, I'd have to go back and see that code.
Okay, I just thought it was awful.
I call it the NIBRS Bible, and I pull it out and it defines what these things are and trying to figure out stuff like that.
That just seemed like a low number. I thought there's a little bit more than that going on. But if it's all I'm just thinking like farm equipment and things like that.
Actually, we're very, very blessed. If you look, unfortunately, on the calls for service that we get, mostly disturbances, suspicious, and domestics. We get a lot of that. That's probably our primary calls. whether it's some kind of substance abuse induced situation. But we probably get more in this county. Probably more of our calls is disturbances of some sort, and that's probably our primary thing that we deal with the most, is trying to mediate and make an appropriate arrest if it's necessary, dealing with that type of stuff.
Okay.
Intoxication's a challenge that we deal with a lot.
Right. That's all I have.
Brad?
It's really good seeing that the updated software y'all are using, you're putting it to good use. I'm not real familiar with divers, because in 2015 when I retired, we were just migrating to that. So I really didn't get too involved. But my general, if I remember right, I mean, they were still using the same Part 1 crimes, right?
You're talking
From
about UCR
the
versus divers?
SAF or SRS, the old UCR system.
UCR.
Yeah. My understanding was they were still going to still capture all the Part 1 crimes.
So my understanding is, of course, Sharon used to do the UCR all the time during the records. My understanding is UCR is actually more detailed, and NIBRS is not quite as detailed when she looks at what we do now versus what we used to do. And she's like, man, I used to have to do a whole lot more breaking down of this and that. So NIBRS seems to be more generic categories, but yes, the header category, I think, is still pretty consistent.
Well, where would homicides fall in under NIBRS? Because in your thing, I don't see any homicides in here.
We've not had any. So
Homicides this year?
officially, the one that's in King that most people are familiar with, they are there. Now I take that back. You're talking till June 30th. We know we had one here not too long ago, but it was after the June 30th mark. But the one in King is coded technically assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, because the suspect passed away prior to the victim. And so it didn't get coded again to a murder-suicide at that point, because the suspect passed away first.
So if you do have an actual homicide, it would say homicide.
It would be categorized that way, yes.
And the only other question I have is that your online tips, is that any way at all connected or facilitated with Crime Stoppers?
No, sir. It's totally independent. So Crime Stoppers is not an organization of the Sheriff's Office. It's standalone 501c3, and we work closely with them, which is Captain Bottoms is on their board and things like that. But it's totally separate. So if you'll look at the tip, if you later on look at that, one of the very first sentences that was put on there was, if you are looking for a payout, you need to contact Crime Stoppers at the 800 number, because this is not affiliated with Crime Stoppers. So it defines that at the very top of the submission page, so that somebody doesn't think, well, I should have gotten something when I submitted the tip. So it is separate just because that's a separate entity and organization. They do their own fundraising and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, most places it is. I was just curious because, I mean, Crime Stoppers' actual thing on the Sheriff's Office website, it's just like, it's just outdated. There's nothing there. So, I mean, apparently nobody, which I find it very unusual, nobody wants to call in and snitch on somebody and make some money in Stokes County.
Again, Captain Bottoms is on the board there, but again, it's the standalone organization. So we put their telephone number on there. Communications monitors the telephone number. They generate the report if there is one. It does come to the Sheriff's Office. Captain Bottoms would follow up, make sure it gets appropriately distributed and followed up on. And then if there is an award that would be, I guess if it's eligible for a payout, then it goes back to the Crime Stoppers board, and then they make the decision of how that works. But even then, we would have to get permission from them how much to even offer on a tip, because it's their own private entity, 501c3, and we're not controlling their checkbook. That's totally separate from the Sheriff's Office.
That's what I'm trying to say is the more advertising that we can get for Crime Stoppers. I mean, I was heavily involved in Crime Stoppers in Fayetteville. If you don't put the word out of what kind of crimes that you're looking to solve that would pay money, that triggers people, in my opinion,
Right.
triggers people, especially when money's involved, to call. it just seems like that it's just a little generic thing. Hey, I get that it's totally separate and that it's a nonprofit. That's the way it is everywhere. But you should, and I know you are, you got cap and bottoms as your interface and everything. But I think maybe if more people knew about Crime Stoppers and what crimes you're trying to solve.
I mean, I don't mind. I mean, we could absolutely try to enhance the advertisements on that, as far as even if it comes to our Facebook page and different things to try to bring attention to it.
That's all I got.
Good job. When did the app, I'm trying to remember, when did the app kick off?
It probably kicked off toward the first of the year. We've had to work with them to tweak a few things throughout, but it
Do
seems
you
pretty
know how
stable.
many has signed up?
So I have not looked recently. It was about 900 not too long ago, but I have to go into the Google platform and the Apple platform separately and see how many downloads there are and things like that.
It's very good. For nothing else, the notifications can tell you when a road closes before it closed. If there's a bust, it's very well done. And the reason I asked, me and Jeff last week talked to our first of several, I hope. We're thinking about getting an app for the county because one of our weaknesses on the survey was getting news out, and this first one was pretty impressive. So we're hoping to go that route too.
We've been very fortunate. Like I said, it was built into the contract with Southern, so it's not a separate standalone piece. And it's
Get
overall
the word
it's pretty
out
easy.
about the app though.
Again, we just use through Facebook and things like that, just trying to advertise and make people aware that it's out there. So every couple of months we may throw the advertisement for it back out on Facebook and stuff, but just every so often recycle the information about it.
Jeff, you got anything?
Nope.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next is the Soil and Water Annual Report. And if you want these three guys to leave the room on the front row, yes.
Hey, my name is Amelia Harold. As you know, Janice retired and I got very big shoes to fill. So wanted to come mostly and kind of introduce myself. Been with Soil and Water for almost a year now. Ended up finding my dream job right here at home. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about our annual report for the 24-25 fiscal year. As you know, most of these fine gentlemen back here, we've got a great board behind us. Marvin Cavanaugh has stepped down. Bob, thankfully, here has taken his place as vice chairman. James Booth, of course, is our chairman, as well as Gary East is on with us now as a member. Good old Joe Bennett here as well. And Johnny East as well. He's our secretary and treasurer. So again, this is for last year, so we'll have some older information in here. Janice, of course, was our director. I was our natural resource conservationist. We also had Michaela Newsom and Lance Parker that represent NRCS, which we work very closely with. So we've been pretty lucky to have that partnership with them. If you're familiar, so we have an agriculture cost share program that we are able to administer to the citizens of Stokes County last year. And the purpose of that is to reduce non-point source pollution. So one of those things that you can't really pinpoint that it's coming out of this pipe or coming specifically out of this field. It's just a collective that is polluting our waterways. So in the 24-25 fiscal year, we had 5 contracts that were approved through the state that totaled $60,894. The practices that were installed in the 24-25 year, and I know I'm spitting a lot of numbers out at you here, we had almost 3,000 linear feet of livestock exclusion fencing, over 680 feet of division fencing, 60 square yards of heavy use area geocell, which geocell is something new that we're actually starting to work with. That's a lot of fun. We've installed six livestock watering facilities, almost 1,900 feet of livestock pipeline or irrigation pipeline, over 300 acres of cover crops, a little over 186 of residue and tillage management, and a little over 50 foot of rooftop runoff structures. So that's affected 658 acres by decreasing soil erosion and reducing the transport of valuable nutrients. That has resulted in almost 980 pounds of nitrogen saved alone, over 300 pounds of phosphorus saved, and 140 pounds of soil saved. We also do spot checks for our contracts each year that are within their maintenance period, which typically is about 10 years. So we randomly draw 5% of those. So we conducted those on April 23rd and May 24th with our board members as well as our staff, and we found everyone there in compliance. We also have the AgRAC program, which is the Agriculture Water Resource Assistance Program. So whereas cost share focuses on water quality, AgRAC focuses on water quantity. So we were able to install 2 agriculture wells in the 24-25 year. Again, I mentioned our partnership with the USDA, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. So they have different programs as well. EQIP, which is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, as well as CSP, which is a Conservation Stewardship Program that is administered through NRCS. So we had 4 EQIP contracts and 3 CSP contracts that were approved. And the following practices that were installed: so a little over 13 acres of grassland conservation, over 85 acres of existing activity, land use, and resource concern, almost 23,000 linear feet of fire break installation, over 38 acres of prescribed burning, and 5.4 acres of herbaceous weed control. So along with those allocations, we have paid $45,688.25 to landowners in the 24-25 year. We also have a fairly new program. It's called STRAP, so it's a stream flow rehabilitation assistance program. So what this program does is it's essentially a grant that we applied for, and we were awarded $524,718. And it's essentially to protect the drainage infrastructure and to prevent loss of life. So we're very lucky to be able to work with that. So part of the funding is used for removal on a Little Yakin 25 watershed of 2,500 cubic yards of sediment and debris that is hindering the function of the structure as a whole. As you guys know, I'm sure this is probably a little bit of a hot topic, but we have all 24 of those, which we'll get into in a few minutes. The rest of the funds were used to remove debris from seven different stream segments that totaled almost 11,000 linear feet. So work has began this year in May, and we're hoping it will conclude winter of 26. So I just have a quick summary here for you of the funds that have been allocated to the county. CSP had a total of $515, sorry. Cost share was right under $61,000. EQIP ran around $167,324, and our STRAP program again had we were allocated $524,718. So we've allocated a little over $1 million to the county through our programs. As far as our watersheds go, so of course we have 24 of those. Those are all flood control structures. They provide flood control for 56,579 acres of the Town Fork Creek watershed and just under 37,000 acres for the Little Yakin watershed. So we are responsible for the maintenance of those. That includes the mowing, the fertilizing, the liming. I was actually out this morning doing a little herbaceous weed control. So September of 24 and June of 25, all the dams and emergency spillways on those 24 watershed structures were mowed. So additional maintenance as far as cleaning debris off of the risers, making sure there's nothing in our emergency spillways, that type of stuff also takes place. And we also do with the with our board, We conduct the annual watershed inspections. We did that on October 16th of last year. You may be familiar, but we also have a no-till seed drill. That was through a grant that we got back in 2008, and in this last year, we have been able to reseed and or establish almost 300 acres of hayland, pasture land, and wildlife plantings for Stokes County. And the purpose of the drill essentially is it's to promote soil health by minimizing disturbance, reducing erosion, promoting moisture retention, and enhancing seed placement for a stronger crop establishment. So it's a really great tool, and we're really happy to be able to offer that to Stokes County. We also have 3 conservation easements that are a little under 19 acres that we hold off the Dan River and its tributaries to protect riparian buffers for the benefit of the water quality. So we were able by drone, our office does have a drone, to inspect those April 30th and May 15th of this year. As you know as well, we have our VAD program, which is Voluntary Ag District. And essentially it promotes agriculture values and general welfare of the county by increasing identity and pride in the agriculture community and its way of life. So, you know, we have actually just added a few more board members where a few have ended their terms. But we added 14 new parcels through the VAD program, preserving an additional 982 acres, a little over 982. So that puts us up to a little over 9,500 acres in Stokes County protected by our VAD program. We also do conservation plans, so we go out and provide technical assistance. Does not have to be through a contract. We have, you know, landowners call us with problems. We're able to kind of go out, sort of assess the situation, and then we can write conservation plans that align with the producer's conservation goals. So last year, our staff wrote 34 conservation plans, which is pretty big task. We also do the water point certifications. So, you know, local fire departments at their request through the Stokes County Fire Marshal's office. And these certification points are stream and pond sites where water withdrawals can be safely obtained in the event of a fire. So staff visit each site to determine the water volume capacity and recharge rates by taking flow measurements. And once that data is collected, a discharge calculation formula is used to determine the water body's volume capacity and its ability to recharge after a withdrawal has been made. So we currently have 18 water point sites that have been completed for Stokes County as of the 24-25 year. Of course, we continuously do staff training and professional development. So we have attended several trainings over the last year. Our conservation employees training, which we actually just got back from last week. We also did a heavy use area training, a pasture management training, a notary training, a cost share training, and a Russell 2 training. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Russell 2, but it's a very complicated tool that helps us kind of gauge our soil loss and savings and nutrient loss and savings in comparison to what a producer is doing versus best management practices that we can help them install. So we also do our conservation education. We're a huge sponsor of that for the citizens of Stokes County, and these programs are just meant to educate individuals on the value of our natural resources. So programs are offered to our school-age children and follow objectives as outlined in the North Carolina Common Core Essential Standards. So we have several education contests and programs. We do a poster, essay, and slideshow contest, and so those are held and judged in our office. I think you guys have a copy of this. You can see all of our award winners down there. We do an environmental awareness days. I'll talk about that for a second. But we had a total of 402 people, teachers as well as students, show up for that last year. We have an Envirothon competition, which I'll talk about, and a resource conservation workshop where we're able to sponsor a student to send to that, as well as 100 people that participated in Earth Day, 19 that participated in garden club presentations, and we had about 80 people at our awards banquet. I do want to say we appreciate, those of you that came to that banquet for us this past year. So on May 13th, that was when we held our awards banquet. And that banquet essentially had all of those poster essay slideshow contests that as well as the workshop student that we were able to send to the resource conservation workshop. And then we also highlighted a conservation educator of the year as well as a farm family of the year there. So I do want to thank you guys for attending that. Again, our environmental awareness days. So we sponsor the environmental awareness days for 5th graders at Hanging Rock State Park. So students are able to rotate through stations and learn about topics like soils, wildlife, forestry, weather, functions of the human body, and water cycles, honeybees, and animal ecosystems. So that was held on April 15th and 16th. I believe Amber and Jeff got to ride up and see us in action there. So again, we had 402 students that were able to participate in that. Again, the resource conservation workshop. So it's a week-long intensive study and hands-on conservation workshop held on the campus of NC State University each year for conservation-minded students in grades 9 through 11. So the state allows us to send one person, and we were able to sponsor Zinnia Burgess. Our board chose Zinnia Burgess, and we paid the $625 registration for her to attend that. Our Envirothon competitions, so that was held in Wilkes County this past year on March 27th. Envirothon is a bit simpler, but it's for middle, or a bit similar, but it's for middle and high school students. So we actually sponsored 2 teams to go to that from South Stokes this past year. And students are able to exercise their training and problem solving skills by testing in categories like soil and land use, aquatic ecology, forestry, wildlife, and current environmental issues. So staff was able to process registration for 26 high schools and 21 middle schools, as well as assisting in some of the stations that they had there. And they had 235 participants across the Northwest North Carolina. To our Farmers Appreciation, so we're always tickled to be able to put that on for everybody. It's a lot of fun, so we're in collaboration with Cooperative Extension, Forestry, and the FSA, which is the Farm Service Agency. It's kind of a free-for-all. So we also had the White Oak Ramblers Bluegrass Band there. They were great. That happened on April 10th, and there was approximately 450 people that attended that. So we were able to feed a pretty good chunk of people there. Our public outreach, so I'm not sure, I think maybe a few of you are on our list. So we do a newsletter in the fall and the spring. That's called the Soil and Water News. So we highlight all of our cost share programs. But staff is also able to write informative articles about, up and coming things in conservation, as well as our website. So we do have up-to-date information on that as well. And we have also recently started a social media page on Facebook. So you can find us there as well. We'll kind of highlight some of our programs, some of the things that we're doing, that type of thing. As well as doing that, we will also set up a booth at the fair that highlights some of our programs. And that's going to be, last year we did that September 2024. So we're just in the main building there. We're able to set us up a nice little display. And I just want to thank the volunteers that we had. So we had 20 volunteers that worked a total of 52 hours last year for us. Our board, we're very lucky that their spouses want to put up with them enough to come and help us out too. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their support and try not to take up too much of your time. Are there any questions or anything?
Brett?
Great report. We always
love hearing from you guys. You got big shoes to fill.
Absolutely.
But I'm really impressed the way you spoke and you got your point across, and you're not leaving anything behind. I mean, you're staying up on tempo. So I appreciate that. One question I do have though is, have you seen a reduction, or are you hearing of a reduction of any grants, especially that flow through from the state, from the federal government?
Not for us, not for the district. So the county, so far, we've been safe on that. I know that they put a hold on a lot of IRA funds through NRCS, so there was a pretty big question there as to whether those contracts were going to get paid out. People who were in the process of applications, if those were going to be able to turn into contracts themselves. But it seems like all that has kind of worked itself out, and they're, to my knowledge, they are kind of operating pretty close to what they were.
And just lastly, I just think that you're one of the departments in the county that, like a hidden gem. I mean, you're not really, because when I first came on the board, I knew hardly nothing about y'all. But then as going on, 2 years now and being involved, I mean, you all make a lot of contact with people, and it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get kind of, you take stuff for granted, but y'all don't here. And I think that's great. So keep up the good work, and just keep your board in line, and I'm sure you'll be good.
We gotta whip. We try our best. And I'll agree with you there. There's a joke, and it really shouldn't be a joke, that soil and water is one of the best kept secrets. And I'll be 100% honest with you. A year and a half ago, I had no idea what soil and water did. We still have a lot of people that call us to pay water bills. So it's just one of those things where people don't know what we do, and I want to change that. I want to get the word out there to make us more successful and to be able to allocate more money to our county.
Thank you. That's all I got, Mr. Chair.
I agree that you guys do add great value to the county, and that's a really good idea to get that information out, because it lines up with our survey. It said that's what we need to do, so that'll be great. Also really like your awards banquet. I've been to every one for the last, I don't know how many years.
Great.
Thank you for coming. It's one of the better events of the year around here.
Yeah.
I had just one quick question. What's the fire break program? I don't remember hearing about that before.
I'll be
How does that
100% honest. I'm not super up to date with NRCS's programs. Michaela Newsom can probably tell you a lot about that. They have a lot of programs that we as a district do not have. So they do a lot more with like wildlife and forestry where we don't. So I can get that information for you though.
I'm just curious what the criteria is, or what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's kind of important around here.
It very much is, and that's the like I said, it's their programs are we have a lot of cropland and pasture practices that are in common, but they do a lot more with forestry and wildlife that I wish we could do. So I'm not super up to date with.
Yeah, I'll check with them or Jonathan
programs.
next time I see him.
Yeah.
That's great. Super report.
Thank
Again, great report. And go back to Mr. Chandler, what he was talking about. A lot of people, I don't think a lot of people are aware of what y'all do or how y'all can help. I know an individual particularly that got like 75% of his stuff paid for through this on his farm, what he was doing. And he knew nothing about it until somebody brought it up to him. Have you checked with soil and water conservation about all this? Well, no. What do? Well, they explain it to him. Well, he called out to y'all, and to him, he hit a home run, and that's what it's all about.
Right.
The water points you brought up, we appreciate that. We was part of that. That's to do with our ISO rating with the fire departments. So all of those are in place now, and we greatly appreciate y'all's help with that. And great report.
It was very informative, good report. I think you hit all the high spots, and fortunately I was out of town at the last banquet and didn't get to be there, but it is a good event, and I really appreciate y'all putting that on every year. It's really good, and all the resources that y'all have for the community, and you know, it's like he said, a lot of times people aren't aware of all of them, but, you know, getting the word out is key in that, and y'all do a really good job to try to make sure everybody knows what's available to the community. So we appreciate all y'all's work for sure. Keep up the good work.
For your first report, you knocked it out of the park.
Good deal.
Good job, and thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next, we go to our discussion agenda. The first item is the Pine Hall Elementary School property. Who's taking lead?
I guess I've got that one. We were recently informed by the school board that they have determined that they have no educational use for the former Pine Hall Elementary School property, and so they are contemplating disposition. The general statutes allow them to sell the property, but before they do, they have to offer it to you as a board to take that property back from them. In conversations that I've had with Dr. Rice, he believes that the school board would be amenable to passing that property back to the county for a nominal fee or for no fee at all if the law allows it that transaction to take place. And for us to sell the property under the understanding that the proceeds from the sale would go into the 4 cent fund to help to fund future school facility construction. So this is an opportunity for you guys to kind of maybe stew on that question a little bit. I don't know if you want to make a decision tonight about how to move forward.
What is the timetable? How much time have we got? Not that we want to drag it out to the end, but we don't want to rush into anything either.
I don't. There's no formal time restraint. I think it would be fair if we could give the school board a general answer about how we want to proceed in the next month or so.
Okay, I got some comments.
Okay, I'm glad you raised your hand.
One of the Francisco people that was here when all that went on, so I guess, Jennifer, maybe I wouldn't mind if you check and see if the statutes have changed any since we did Francisco on the statutes that relate to this. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think we paid anything for Francisco, I think.
The statute says that they have to offer it to us, and we can pay a fair market value or any other value that is negotiated between the two boards.
Okay.
It may have changed, Rick. I don't know.
I think it kind of has, maybe.
Because when I was on the school board and you were probably county manager when Francisco happened, and I think I thought it automatically reverted back to the
I did too, that's what I thought, and I don't think that's the case now, like Jeff said, so that's why I want to know if there's been a change or
I
whatever.
believe so. It's section 115C-518. I think Fred referenced that in his letter also. And Jeff's correct on the pricing. It just says the board shall offer the property to the Board of Commissioners at a fair market price or at a price negotiated between the two boards.
Okay. What we did back then, we proceeded off with this same discussion about selling it, and we immediately were contacted by the community group at Francisco, who had great concerns about that approach. And the phrase I think that was used, that they didn't want to sell it to the highest bidder and have it turn into a hay barn and sit there in Francisco forever, run down and looking bad and everything. So we worked through probably a year of discussion with the Francisco community group that's still intact up there. What do they call them now?
Community of Northwest Stokes.
Yeah, it's that same group, same people basically. And we developed a grant program where the school was granted to a person if they would meet certain requirements, and it involved a certain amount of investment in the property and guaranteeing a certain number of jobs for a certain period of time. All of those requirements were met. And the reason they wanted to do that is they wanted, like I said, it to be something besides a storage facility or a warehouse. And they want it to be an active part of the community, value added to the community. So we have a precedent for doing that. Whether we want to do that again or not is a discussion I think the board needs to have. But I noticed there's no Pine Hall people here today asking about this, and so it makes me wonder if they're aware that we're discussing it, and they may not be. But I would definitely, before I move very far on this, would want to get some input from the community at Pine Hall, whatever that group happens to be out there. That
I agree.
Because I can guarantee you they're interested in what happens to that school, and it doesn't need to be a junkyard or a storage facility. It needs to be something better than those kind of things, and it could turn into either one if we don't handle this properly. So that'd be my initial thoughts on it, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to really hear some input back from that community. What they,
I don't know who we would contact. They have the Ruritons out there. They have, is it Jason Duncan?
Jason Duncan contacted me by email.
Already?
Was it? No. This is months ago. And wanted to know, was there anything new on it? So he might be one of the individuals we need to contact.
I think I'd start with him probably. Especially if he's already asked about it.
He did.
Tell him we need some input.
I told him we were just waiting on the Board of Education.
He contacted you too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were waiting on the Board of Education to let us know. That's the last thing I've communicated.
So what happened with Francisco, based on the grant program that was done, it didn't turn into a junkyard or a warehouse. It's had businesses in it pretty much ever since then. Had the initial business, and then now it's got new businesses that have popped up here recently that are adding good value to that community. So I would hope that would kind of be our objective here, instead of selling it and giving money to the school system. That's a little bit, that's one approach, but I would prefer to look at something a little better than that.
We have to be mindful that the school system has a say in this.
Yeah, they do, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can get input from the community too.
Yeah.
Have they indicated a timeline as far as when they want to? So I assume they're going to keep the power on and everything. And
They have to, or it will turn instantly into a molo.
have we assured they will? You know, I don't know if there's a time. That
We had Francisco, we had $25,000 a year budgeted just to keep it from, like you said, turning into mold. And
I mean, that's a factor too. You know,
Yeah,
when they decide they want it to be our bill instead of theirs.
security and all.
Well, we don't want it to drag out forever, but we don't want to do something stupid either.
I didn't want to forget that part of it.
So we just push this to discussion next meeting.
Okay.
And Amber, how can we advertise public comment? How can we get the word out?
We can post it on Facebook and even the website.
We got a volunteer in the back, Stokes News.
That's right. We can also post it on
Headlines
ours
this
as well.
Yeah.
We can make sure to draft something.
And if you talk to Jason, he'll get the community informed out there as well.
Jason.
All right, so we're ready to move to the next item. Olivia?
So at our last Board of Commissioners meeting, we approved the amended Animal Control Advisory Board bylaws, which required the board to have a member from a hunting organization. We advertised that position on our website and accepted applications through August 22nd, which was last Friday. We received one application which was attached, and I think you guys have it in front of you. That was from Ken Sevier. Typically what we do is we nominate any application we receive. We usually do keep the position open for another 2 weeks just so everyone knows. If no other applications are received, we can choose to poll the board. However, but for today, it would be just a matter of nominating the application we received.
Okay, do I hear a nomination?
I nominate Ken Sevier.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Next on discussion agenda is Board of Health member status.
I guess I'll go. We'd had some concerns expressed regarding possible removal of one of the members of the Board of Health. Pursuant to the statute, a board member can only be removed for certain criteria and only after the member has been given written notice of the basis for removal and has had the opportunity to respond. So initially, well, let me backtrack that. What we would need from the board is a consensus on what y'all want to do with this situation, whether it's something or nothing. And if there's something that you guys want to do on this, we do need to notify the Board of Health member and allow him the opportunity to respond at a subsequent meeting before the action is taken.
Where did this come from?
I asked to see it.
Oh,
I wanted to, because Board of Health and the DSS Board and the Planning Board, I think, are the only three boards that have to swear an oath to be on those boards. I think that those boards, because they are sworn under oath, carry, to my opinion, a greater how to say it, but just, I think, I don't say you hold to a higher standard, but I think they're more in a position of people really looking at them in their positions because they oversee the Department of Health or the DSS, and they swear on this oath that they will uphold the laws of the United States, and of course the Constitution and so forth. But I just think that we need to take these allegations and charges serious. And being the only female on here, I may look at it a little different than the rest of y'all. I don't know. Shouldn't really come down to whether you're female or male when it comes to domestic violence. But had he been charged with, you know, kicking his dogs, this room would be full right now. You know it. It would be. And because it's spousal abuse, it's like, well, no big deal in some people's eyes, but not in mine. I take it very serious. And a 50B is something that is not just easily granted. The magistrate, then the judge upheld it, so there has to be some evidence of abuse, or they don't issue those, in my opinion. And we can certainly ask our attorney her opinion on that, but I think there has to be some evidence there to warrant a 50B. And this thing could drag on forever, who knows, but I think to resolve it, in my opinion, the best thing to do would be ask for a resignation, and and see if that can, before you remove somebody, that might be the easiest thing, and that would be my first line of what to do to go about resolving it. It's a touchy situation, and it's a touchy thing to talk about in public arena, for sure.
Well, it shouldn't be. Everybody's got an opinion. Let's hear it. Wayne?
Well, I see both sides of it, but I've always been a firm believer man's innocent until he's found guilty. I know what he's been charged with, and that's a serious charge, and I understand that. I mean, personally, I was hoping that he would just step down from his position to begin with, but it's just hard for me to sit here to want to remove somebody until, you know, that you've been found guilty of your charges, you know.
Rick?
I kind of share Wayne's concern. I don't like convicting people before the court system does it, but that doesn't mean that I don't consider this a very serious matter. I think if I was in his shoes, I would at least take a leave of absence or do a resignation based on this. But like Wayne said, he hasn't had due process yet, and so I think he's got a court date coming up fairly soon. Jennifer, what would we learn from a court appearance versus the 50B that was awarded? I mean, I don't understand what the 50B does as far as making you guilty or not guilty.
Right. I can give you sort of a Cliff's Notes version of that, if that's okay. This is just from my practice prior when I did family law and criminal law. So criminal charges carry a higher burden of proof. That's where you get the phrase guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Civil actions are, you're victorious in a civil action by the preponderance of the evidence, which is a lower standard. With a 50B, there are considerations the judge would take in at what's called the ex parte stage, which means that at this point, I don't believe he's had an appearance where he's been able to tell his side. I think his spouse has been able to tell her side as far as the 50B is concerned. There's been nothing heard in the criminal charges other than what was necessary to get past the probable cause stage with the magistrate. So at this point, we are pretty early on in the proceedings. The next court date, my understanding is, I believe, is September 8th. And what has happened is that they have moved the 50B hearing and the criminal charges to be heard together. Now, in my experience, we may not know anything at that date either, because I believe, that's going to be the time when you're getting continuances from attorneys and that kind of thing. We used to sort of joke in criminal court that your first one's free. So you'll probably, I would think sometime, maybe October or November, you might have a resolution at the earliest as far as knowing what the final outcome is. In answer to your question, Sonia, about the 50B that's in place, that's what we call a temporary 50B. And the judge did have to make findings, so there are findings on the record that an act of domestic violence was committed. But I understand the hesitation as well. So the year-long protective order, if that were to be granted, there would have been evidence from both sides presented. So with that said, I think what we need is just to know what you need us to do at this point, whether it's nothing or whether it's something. Is that your opinion as well, Jeff, as far as do you want someone to reach out and talk to him about a resignation? Do you want to take formal action, or do you want to wait and see what happens when the charges are disposed of? So that's sort of where we are with it as far as a direction.
So then on the first trial thing, unless they just continue it and say nothing, then that'll be an opportunity for us to hear his side of the story.
Potentially, if they actually have a hearing on that
If
date.
they have a hearing.
I sort of doubt the hearing will happen that date, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before on things, but
Supposed to.
yeah, it's supposed to. But yeah, so I believe we will know maybe a little more on the September 8th date. But I think it's probably more likely going to be October and November.
I guess, like I said, if it was me, I would take at least a temporary leave of absence, or I'd do a resignation. I would accept the resignation if he wanted to put one in.
So would I.
I'm not quite to the point of forcing him to resign until we get just a little further through the due process.
Brad, what's your opinion?
I believe in due process. I don't, the accusation is horrible and embarrassing, but right now it's just an accusation. He did pass probable cause. I've been involved in over 30 years of law enforcement, a lot of bad domestic scenes. Every once in a while, you see things change when it comes to court testimony. What I'd be more apt to take the action, kind of what Commissioner Cox is recommending, removing them, is that based on, it'd be different if he had some kind of authority, like, so if he was a police officer, or if he had control over certain situations to where he could induce harm, I would be more apt to look stronger what the probable cause was, and then to probably remove him. But it just isn't the case. He's the chair of the health board, and I get that, but my question is, okay, so do we know of anybody else that sits on the health board? Have they ever been arrested for anything or convicted of anything? Do we have any other board members that have been convicted of domestic violence that we know of? And of course, you can get convicted of things just because you live here in Stokes County. Don't mean that's the only place that you can't get arrested for something. So maybe I'd be more apt into setting a policy, if we can do that, in terms of, hey, if there's certain types of crimes that people commit within a certain time frame or something that we don't feel comfortable appointing to a board, then I would be very interested in that. But I mean, I know this is new, but so, I mean, we don't even know for sure. I mean, so we're gonna do something to somebody. He hasn't had due process yet, and we don't even know what the status of our other board members are. If we're gonna do it, I mean, it can't be just a domestic violence thing that we look at. There's a lot of other crimes you can commit that probably would be just as, jarring as domestic violence. But I'm for letting it play out with the due process. I think it would be telling if people were starting to come forward to say, hey, that they've had one-on-ones with him where he's like out of control and threatening or something like that, then I think, yeah, you do kind of have to look at the urgency of the matter and make that separation. I haven't had one person call me say, get him off the board.
I have. Maybe it's because I'm the only female on here.
I mean, I understand the different perspectives, but it just because you're a man doesn't mean that that you're for domestic violence, or it's not as high on our list, because I assure you, it is on mine, always was, and still is. I have a daughter, I got granddaughters, I got a wife. So I assure you that I don't take lightly domestic violence, but I also believe in due process and doing things, I think, at least in the proper order. That's it.
I have one other quick question. What would be the case if charges were dropped, or they haven't been, have they?
No, they have not been.
Okay. In a lot of cases they are, right?
In my experience, sometimes the criminal charges will be dropped, but the 50B will remain in effect. That can be a resolution. The whole thing could be dismissed. All of the action. My understanding, just based on some of the information, is that this is probably not going to happen in this case. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of agreement regarding the criminal charges at some point, which that would happen on September 8th. You never know. So, but yeah, so it's possible that it could be.
Have we heard any input back from the other old health members that served on the board?
Have you heard anything from them?
From a
I've not
couple
heard.
that thought he should resign on his own volition. And that's what would be the best resolution, in my opinion.
So I know no more than I started out with.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think being a man or woman and you're selected to a position, you're expected to be higher up than Joe Blow on the street. But at the same time, you're innocent until you're convicted. I wish he would step back and resign until it's resolved, and then he's welcome to come back if he's found innocent.
There are always positions open on that health board, believe me. There's plenty of positions open right now, are there not, Amber?
Yeah, there are several.
So it isn't like he couldn't get reinstated if he's found to be innocent. I would be fine with that. I just think he should resign for the time being till that's resolved.
I agree with that part.
I think he should too, but whether I want to force him to is a different story.
Do we ask him to?
You can.
If
What
he's
about us taking a temporary leave of absence?
Yeah.
So I did ask the school government about that. That was an issue that I was looking into, and there's no procedure for that. I did hear back from them, and there's not a sabbatical or leave or anything like that. You're either on or you're not.
But he could do it.
He could.
and in our wonderful,
We can't implement it, but he could. Yes.
He could do it, you mean?
Yeah.
He could resign and then be
We
reappointed.
can't make him do it, but he could do it himself.
Which one, temporary leave of absence or resignation?
Either.
Or both?
Yeah.
He could do either one?
Yeah.
I figure if you force him this day and time and he's found innocent, he could sue your pants off.
Is that a possibility?
Well, let's talk about that one in closed session. If you,
Attorney-client privilege.
yeah.
So are we gonna formally ask Jeff to write him a letter or call him up on behalf of the board to ask for his resignation? Ask that he resign and, or not? I mean, I guess that's the question. We're not gonna remove him, that's obvious. I don't think you have the votes to remove him right now, while we're still got all this funding. But I think at least 3 of us said we thought he should resign.
The how you gonna word it? He's gonna step back until it's resolved?
We could say, ask him to resign, with the understanding that if his name is cleared, then he can be reappointed.
Everybody cool with that?
Reappointed to the same position. Chairman.
Have to have an interim chair, probably.
You got a vice chair. I met her at Keith
Have an
Lawson.
interim.
Yeah, that sounds like I don't
That
know.
was the lady that was on it.
Okay, well, okay.
She's short.
Yes.
Yeah, that would put the ball in his court.
Is that good enough?
Good with that, Wayne?
Yeah. All right, that moves us to action agenda. Child Support Awareness Month resolution. And
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Okay.
Stacy Elms just reached out and wanted me to bring this resolution to y'all's attention, and I'll read it real quick, and then
okay.
so this is for August being Child Support Awareness Month. Whereas child support is money paid by a parent for the purpose of meeting reasonable needs of the child for health, education, and maintenance, children are entitled to financial support from their parents, and North Carolina continues to improve its efforts at child support collection. And whereas North Carolina Child Support Services is dedicated to serving families and children in North Carolina, and whereas in state fiscal year 2024-2025, nearly $637 million in child support was collected, providing support for more than 305,000 North Carolina children. And whereas children who do not receive adequate financial and emotional support from their parents may experience greater difficulty in becoming happy, healthy, and productive individuals. And whereas many concerned and dedicated judges, district attorneys, clerks of court, sheriff's personnel, and child support professionals work to establish and enforce child support orders from North Carolina children. Now therefore, we, the Stokes County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim August 2025 as Child Support Awareness Month in Stokes County and commend its observation to all citizens.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See nothing else. Let's adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye.